Let's start. Is this okay? Am I okay in terms of frame?
It's perfect.
Okay.
I mean, like, you should really be the one telling me, is it okay with the frame? It's such an honor to have you with us today, wherever you are. You're in Hawaii. So what made you move to Hawaii right now, or temporarily?
Well, the zoonotic disease caused in part by our encroachment on wild spaces and the result of animal agriculture. So I wanted to get away as far as possible from the mainland of the US, and turns out that an island like Hawaii, has been a little affected because people, take a lot of steps to be careful in the community.
Yeah. And I'm guessing with all that open space and clean eating and also positive vibes, it's like the number one way to ensure that we have a strong immune system, So Shelley, I am so excited because I've been fangirling you for way too long. The first time we met was when I first opened Grassroots in 2012, and I still have that photo of us. I watched PlanEAT when it first came out in 2011, I believe. And it was one of those documentaries that really inspired me to utilize my career and to kind of drive the movement towards plant-based eating and how we can, as chefs, make plant-based foods delicious and innovative and become more normalized in the restaurant industry. So we've been friends since then, and it's been awesome to see everything that you have been doing. And so today I wanted to share a dish with you, which will be on inside the cookbook Provenance. And this dish is called orlam gai. Gai is like chicken. And so I thought of something that you've been recently working on, which is Good Meats. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit, because congratulations, you and Josh, for getting that product into Singapore. Tell us everything about Good Meats.
Good Meat. Yeah, so I mean, Good Meat is a crazy, I think, milestone for the world, really. I mean, it's the first cultured chicken product, which means essentially no animal had to die to produce this piece of chicken. And it is chicken, so under the microscope, the meat is exactly the same as chicken, but it was produced from a single cell. Mm-hmm. And a single cell can be taken without the animal having to suffer or be killed. And that cell can actually keep reproducing itself again and again, just outside the body of the chicken. Yeah. And it's actually produced in a bioreactor, which is kind of similar to, brewing beer or creating yogurt. It's a very natural process. Yeah. There's no genetic modification. And essentially the cells reproduce, and at a certain point you harvest the cells, and essentially what you get currently, what is being sold is a chicken nugget. So it's more like a minced chicken. Mm-hmm. But I think there's going to be lots of other meat products, so beef, pork. And one of the really nice things about bringing this product to market in Singapore, the first people that got to eat it at the dining table, essentially, were 5 children. Right. And they were that had done kind of stuff for the environment. So they were chosen specifically. And one of the first things they asked was like, can we do this for more animals? It was like the most natural question for them. Yeah. And the answer is yes. This is just the first step. So it's very exciting. And, obviously you and I were like big fans of plant-based, but, there are a lot of people that don't want to give up meat. And if you care about the environment or you care about animal compassion issues, this is another option.
Yeah, at scale, it is exactly what is needed in terms of how can we shift more people away from factory farming and recognize that perhaps they don't connect with the humane side or inhumane side of factory farming, but on a sustainability level, it really affects every single one of us. So it's definitely a better option. my favorite ingredient is mushrooms, and I use tons of different types of mushrooms to mimic that kind of texture, that umami-ness that we get from chicken or pork. And so here we have a bit of my favorite lion's mane mushroom. We have some blaze mushroom here that's dried, and then it was dried when we got it, and then we rehydrated it. And the mushrooms are sponsored by one of our partners, Lun Ho or Jay's Garden in Hong Kong. They're like our shroom suppliers. Much of it comes from Yunnan. And then we have some cloudier mushrooms, Kingarengi. For the herbs and spices, we've got some dill, Thai basil, lemongrass, these in-season cabbage sprouts, some Thai eggplants, chili, and some long yard beans. Now, this dish, or lam gai, is from Laos. I learned how to make this dish when I actually got lost one summer, and I told you this story because I was really, really stressed and tired that year, and I needed to go and detox. But I didn't have time to plan it. I wanted to just get away and like just be alone, not talk to anyone. And I'm sure that you felt that way previously before. So what I did was I just bought a ticket really quickly and then left. And I ended up being lost in like this place called Lawag in Philippines. And it was just an airport code that was like a little bit different, and it was off, and I had no clue that I ended up there. But anyway, long story short, I started to detox, wanted to really learn about the Laotian cuisine. There's so much fresh food. So why don't we start by chopping all the vegetable first?
So I did find enoki and these.
Maitake. Oh, those are king oyster and shimeji.
And shiitake. Will that work?
Super perfect. Yeah. Right now I have these blaze mushrooms. They're dried and then rehydrated, and they're super meaty. And then I have obviously the lion's mane mushrooms and cloudier mushrooms as well. So I'll have a bit of Kingarengi here. Yeah. So just improv it. It's all good. And then all the herbs and stuff. You got dill.
I did not find dill myself, unfortunately. But anyway,
this is gonna make.
About dill. I didn't realize dill was used in Asian cooking.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but they do use it in like a bit of Cambodian and Laotian cuisine, so that's really cool, and it makes the dish. It really does. So we've got some baby eggplants and Thai basil. Okay. In terms of your spice mix, you have the white peppercorn, right, and then I have the Sichuan peppercorn here, some bay leaves. And then, have you toasted yours yet?
Not yet. I just found the pan. But I'm gonna do it now. I've got rice.
Sweet. So I just toasted the white peppercorn with the Sichuan peppercorn and the brown rice together until it's like a little golden brown. And we'll basically mill it. I mean, if you have a blender, go ahead. If not, don't worry about it. So yeah, with your mushrooms, maybe just slice them into like strips like that, like little sticks and strips. Or like for yours, you can just like probably peel them into these king oyster mushrooms are great without even cutting. Just like naturally give them their original shape. Yeah. And then with the eggplants, just take the stems out, and then we're gonna cut them into quarters. Yeah. So Shelley, when was the last time you actually had a detox? I guess you're kind of in a very zen place, but when was the last time you love traveling? I know that, and you love going to places, doing crazy things. Tell us about some of those experiences.
So I guess, I mean, the last like real detox I would say was when I went to China, and I lived there for 6 months, and I lived in 2 different temples. I lived in a Taoist temple,
Mm-hmm.
and also a kind of Chan Buddhist temple. And we were doing essentially meditation every day, Kung Fu every day. And Kung Fu is more like a kind of yang expression, right? So sometimes when, what you were saying is like you're kind of so on and you just really need a break. So to go from that into like sitting meditation is very difficult, at least for me. And to have kind of like a medium, like I guess like yoga, or in this case Kung Fu, was really great because you're focusing on your physical movements, and by doing that you get to become like closer to a kind of state of mind where you can begin to sit and meditate and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it's just natural for those in those temples not to eat any animal products. Right. They were, fully vegan, just not because it was trendy, but just because it's part of the system. And we even had to carry our food up the mountain. So you really started to, understand where your food comes from, like how does it get there? Don't waste your food, at the end of every meal. Yeah. We would have to put hot water at the end of the bowl and rinse it and then drink it, whatever the remnants. That's awesome. That's so which I found like tough in the beginning, but then like you really understand like why. Yeah. So that's probably.
I mean, with the current situation of 1/3 of our food currently produced being actually lost, it's such an inefficient food system that we have here. And I think this year has been so exciting. I don't know if you felt, or this past year has been so exciting. I mean, it's been difficult. It's been tragic for so many, but at the same time, it's an awakening and it's an opportunity to really step up and, really do something. And when we say really do something, what we really mean is change the system. This is the opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, COVID, for all of the chaos it's created and the heartbreak for many people who have lost, friends or family, it's also been a huge amount of awakening that we are all connected and that what we do every day has had an impact on the planet and on other animals that live on it. And, I think more and more people, there is data to show that more and more people are changing their food habits over this period. They're much more willing and more kind of open to understanding like how, for example, our food choices impact, the way we live on the planet, essentially. So, that's one positive out of like a very dark time.
Absolutely. There's so much research and science behind what is happening, whether it's in food security. We're talking about, the United Nations is dedicating this entire year to Food System Summit, which is huge. It's basically the number one thing that everyone is on at the tip of everyone's tongue. WWF came out with the Living Planet report, identifying that over 68% of the world's species is now lost in the last 50 years. And much of it has to do with agricultural malpractices. So there's no better time to raise these issues up. And we want to be able to do something through, first of all, the easiest way to do that is through our diet. So for this soup, the resident chef said that it's essential that you have these spices. It's what makes the Laotian stew or soup what it is. And over there, I was able to source this ingredient, which is a very indigenous herb or natural bark, dried bark. It's called pepperwood. And it has this kind of like Sichuan pepper, but peppery flavor. And so I haven't been able to find it here yet, but I've also learned that you can replace those flavors using a combination of other spices. So that's, we've got some Sichuan peppercorn, some bay leaves, and also some white peppercorn. But the expression is like we use white pepper often for Asian food. It's milder. And also if you don't want the colored specks of black pepper in your food, then you would use the white version. Yeah, that's like French cooking. They would expect you to use white pepper for a white like bechamel sauce, you know, rather than black pepper. But generally black pepper, I use it for more like westernized dishes, and then white peppercorn I will use for Asian dishes. Okay, so now we also have some toasted brown rice here. What this is used for is to thicken the soup. And I'm going to toss this into the spice spice blender to make them into a flour. And this is something that you can, you know, we eat congee, right? Like porridge, rice porridge, where when you cook down the rice, it becomes loopy. Technically, when I'm powdering this, I'm helping use this as a flour. I'm basically using it as a flour, and it will quickly thicken my soups and stews and such. Recently, I've been playing with teff as well, teff flour, and I've been using it in a curry sauce, like to thicken my curry instead of like a roux. Or another way, what did I do the other day, Joel? I used teff flour to make congee. Yeah, I made congee. So it's just a really great way to replace flour, because we're so used to using like white processed flour as the thickener for things, right? And then like if you have something like this available, you can and you have excess, just put it in a glass jar, and then like you can keep it and use it for another time easily. It smells so good. It's so like the white pepper and the Sichuan peppercorn comes through, but then it's also very toasty and nutty. So that's what's gonna add a lot of flavor to the soup.
Okay. Wow, yeah, it smells amazing.
Love it. I love white peppercorn. It's like one of my favorite ingredients. So I'm just heating my wok now. Wok or pot, doesn't matter. Adding a little bit of rice bran oil. Okay. And my my heat is currently on like medium. I would love to hear about like what is your technique for dealing with mushrooms? Dealing with mushrooms. So if it's fresh, like a kingaringi, high heat, hot oil to stir fry it and let it suntan. So what I mean by that is when I'm frying mushrooms, I never crowd the pan, because anytime because mushrooms is over 90% water, right? Or 90% liquid. So if you crowd it like that, if I stack this right here, this mushroom isn't gonna get cooked. It's basically just steaming here. And therefore it will become really slimy and slushy, which is why a lot of people don't like mushrooms. It's pretty much because we're not cooking it properly. So what I do is I will let all my mushrooms touch the surface area, and let it suntan, let it cook and heat up that way. Yeah.
It's like Mushroom University, Shelley.
Well, I've got to say, guys, that when Peggy was talking about the first time we met, like I went to this restaurant completely not knowing anything about it, just that it was plant-based in Hong Kong, and I was so happy to find it, and then had the lion's mane mushroom.
Yeah.
And I was just so blown away. It just felt like another level.
Did you have it in the Thai curry? Do you remember?
I did, yeah. I had it in the curry, exactly. And then obviously later on, the popcorn chicken was like my favorite thing ever. But I think like no one cooks a lion's mane mushroom like you, Peggy.
Thank you. But now we basically introduced the ingredient more and more and made it more like westernized. So we technically just pass on contacts to a lot of the restaurants that are looking for alternative meats. They might not always be looking for like alternative like mock meats, like the Impossibles, but then they might want some like whole food alternatives. So lion's mane is a great option for them. And also like jackfruit and banana blossoms are also becoming more and more popular here. So it's interesting to see that chefs are now actually adopting more vegan or creating more vegan menu items on their menus. How's your mushroom?
How's my mushroom?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have much light, but there's sun tanning.
Yeah. So make sure they get golden brown. So the whole point is that you're sealing all that liquid in with a high heat, hot oil. You're cooking the outside, browning the outside and sealing the liquid inside. Therefore, it's not just like dried shrimp, or it's still got that like bite to it, and it's not gloopy. You know, like I myself don't like gloopy mushrooms either. So at the point of where your mushrooms are now golden brown, we can add the rest of the vegetables in. And so I've got the eggplant, the cloud ear mushrooms, and the traditional stuff, like when I learned it, they literally just threw everything into a pot. So didn't actually brown the mushrooms, but I like levels of layering flavors, and by sauteing what is umami, I am layering flavor into the soup. Yeah. I'm caramelizing the ingredients. So I've got some of the tougher greens, like the cabbage ones, and also the long yard beans. And then I'm gonna add water into this now. Nice sizzle. Okay, this is supposed to be like a stew slash soup. So it's like it's not just like broth, you know. So feel free to like throw as much stuff in there as possible. It is a substantial meal if you'd like to treat it as a stew. Now I'm adding the bay leaves in there as well.
And bay leaves. I thought bay leaf was like a non-Asian herb that I'm.
Yeah, well, apparently they are as well. A lot of Southeast Asian food utilizes bay leaves, and also Indian cuisine utilizes bay leaves as well. But also you have to think of like in China, it's massive, right? Like the northwest side of China utilizes ingredients that are mixed, so like Indian heritage, and also Middle Eastern spices are heavily used there. Like cinnamon and star anise, cloves. These are all spices that are heavily used in places like Xinjiang. And in Yunnan, there's also a number of ingredients that are kind of crossed over with Laos and Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam. So it's really interesting how like these cultures all mix together and they share ideas and share flavors. So yeah, that's what I love about cooking, really.
And you also also don't use garlic and onion, which typically I would put it. So you're building flavor with those spices.
Yes, true. Yes, so it was a personal choice not to cook with so much garlic and onion. Understandably, it has its health benefits, but we wanted to create a restaurant that catered to the Buddhist community, and the Buddhist community often in Hong Kong cannot consume garlic and onion. And when they go out to eat in like Italian restaurants, it's hard to like ask the chef to like remove the garlic and onion, and so it's difficult. And so I understand that. Therefore, I wanted to create a restaurant, grassroots, that could cater to as many people as possible. Yeah, so we use a lot of different spices, layering of like spices and also umami ingredients. But that limitation really allows us to be as creative as possible. So depending on how much you can actually eat chili, like we love chili in this household. Joel now really loves chili. I'm gonna add some.
About the chili, like how do we know if that chili that I just bought is gonna blow my mind or not? Do you have a way?
Just let us know, Shelley.
The smaller they are, the spicier they are, apparently. Over here, I've got some soy sauce. So about like a tablespoon. And then another tablespoon of this brown rice vinegar. And then I have some like a tablespoon, two teaspoons, let's say, of coconut sugar in here. Okay, so 1 tablespoon soy sauce, 1 tablespoon brown rice vinegar, 2 teaspoons of coconut sugar, and wakame. So that gives it that fishiness. I can basically put the rest of this wakame into the soup as well.